Okay, so Stephen is going to pass around some study sheets. We may not have enough, so just share with your neighbor. I'm trying to count to see. I think we're going to be okay, but so as Stephen comes around with the source sheets, and Bruce too. Bruce is going to help too. All hands on deck. Both of our rabbis mentioned that today is Shabbat Shirah. It's the Shabbat of song. Shabbat of music, the Shabbat of song. Shirah means song. And it used to be that Shabbat Shirah was a major ritual event. Synagogues would bring in choirs or bands, if that was their thing, and it would make it a big spectacle. But really, after our October 7th, I think the focus shifted, and it was hard for me to imagine what Shabbat Shirah would be or could look like. And it wasn't until somebody asked me a question that I was able to identify what I think, this is just my opinion, what I think Shabbat Shirah has become and will be for some years. So I went to the house of somebody who's been in television for 20 years to get some advice on how to edit our film. By the way, who's coming to the documentary on Tuesday, February 18th? Good. If you haven't registered, there's 400 seats in the sanctuary and there's 385 people registered, so it means we need 15 more people to come. And then, of course, if we get more, we can open up the synagogue. So I go to this guy's house and he's giving me advice on how to edit the film. I have it. Thank you. Anybody missing a sheet? Okay, we're good. So he says to me, you know, you're the cantor of a synagogue. Why would you go? You're not a film producer. You're not a screenwriter. You're not a director. Why would you go to Israel and film a documentary? And I wasn't really able to give him an answer. I started explaining, and he said, no, let me stop you. Let me stop you. What do you do? What's your job at the synagogue? I said, well, it's to deliver music, to connect people to liturgy and to God through music. And he said, that's your answer. That's the purpose. Got to help people find their voice again. I remember that Rabbi Royce and I, the first Shabbat after October 7th, we were doing Shabbat for the kids, as we always do at 9:30 every Friday morning. And you see the kids, and they're smiling, and they're waiting for us to sing, and we feel choked. Like nothing comes out. And so I realized this guy's question helped me identify what I think Shabbat Shirah has become, which is to help us find our voices again. So we'll study a little bit, and of course we'll sing together. So when by the way, if anybody has the one with the presenter notes, that's all the stuff that's under the green line. That's everything that I was going to talk about. So if you don't have it, it just means that I forgot it, and I'll just make it up as I go along. And I've been here for 2.5 years, and you know me, so it's par for the course, so I think it's fine. So if you have it, great. If not, it's okay. All right. And Jill's laughing at me because I know what she's thinking. She's thinking, had you given me the sheets last week, I would have prepared it for you and everything would have been okay.
No, I was thinking you're amazing and wonderful.
Thanks, okay. All right. So, helping us find our voices again, Shabbat Shirah, celebrating the song of the sea, reminds us of the transformative power of music in Jewish tradition. So let me just tell you two stories. This I remember from my notes. Let me tell you two stories before we actually begin to look at the source sheets. The first just happened last Friday when we took a group of 20 people from the synagogue to go visit the Jewish community in Cuba. So we were walking through Old Havana, and right in the middle of Old Havana, this is not in some province, it's not on the outskirts, it's in the middle of Old Havana, there's a building called Raquel. It's a hotel, but nobody's there. It's a hotel. With a giant mezuzah on the door. It's a symbol of Jewish existence, a symbol of Jewish resistance. And then later on, we go to the Patronato, the synagogue where Raquel prayed at many times, I'm sure. And so we go to the synagogue and we hear the melodies. Mizmor shir leyom hashavat and hashkivenu Adonai. And so it occurred to me that 90 miles away in Cuba, they sing the same songs. 900 miles away in North Carolina, they sing the same melodies. 9,000 miles away in Singapore, and everywhere in between in the world, you go into Mismo Shir Le'yom. And that's what connects us. That's what helps us find our voice again, is by knowing that there are Jewish communities all over the world that are singing the same songs that we are, literally, metaphorically, spiritually, emotionally. The second story was, well, I don't remember the second story, so if I remember, it's on the one with the notes. Okay, so I'm sure I'll remember it at some point. All right, so let's study. Of course, there's no page numbers because I want you to be awake and I want you to pay attention. Okay, so let's turn the page to the inside. First one, the one that says music as a central element in Jewish tradition. So, of course, we read the Song of the Sea, Shirah Hayam, and in it we read that Miriam, by the way, it's the women who lead the band. They set the tempo. The Torah says they set the tempo. It's always, Raquel said always, absolutely. That Miriam, the prophetess, took her timbrel in her hand, and all the women followed her with timbrels and dancing. Miriam sang to them, "Sing to the Lord, for he is highly exalted." So we see right there, by the way, at every moment of transformation in the Torah, there is song. This is the moment, but there are other moments along the way. But we don't just use moments, we don't just use song in times of happiness and joy or rejoicing. We use song and shirah in times of sadness. One of my favorite verses from the book of Lamentations, it's right underneath the Song of the Sea. Ein la menachem mikol aveha, kol re'eha bagdu ba'hayula le'oivim. Bitterly she weeps in the night, her cheeks wet with tears. There is none to comfort her. All of her friends and her allies have betrayed her. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Sometimes we feel a little bit betrayed, even by our allies and by our friends. We've witnessed that after October 7th, and we've felt it, of course, at the end of Eicha, the book of Lamentations. We read, Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva chadesh yameinu kekedem. Return us to the days of old, renew us with strength and with confidence for tomorrow. So we balance the joy and the lament, always with song. Even at a funeral, when we go to bury somebody that we love, we send them off with song, with El Malei Rachamim, with Kaddish, with a hesped, with a eulogy, which is to sing the song of someone's life. We'll flip the page. It says Rabbinic and Talmudic insights on song, spiritual and emotional impact of music. So in the Talmud, it says Shirah ba'olam hazeh shir chadasha ba'olam haba. The rabbis imagined that in the world to come, all of the righteous people will sing not just as a ritual act, but as a profound spiritual expression. Rabbi Nachman of Braslav taught, it's the little tiny print right at the bottom, he said, get into the habit of singing a tune. It will give you new life and fill you with joy. It will help you during times of trouble. How many times are you driving and maybe the radio's off and it's quiet in the car and you find yourself tapping or humming a song? That's what Rabbi Nachman was talking about. That's a nigun. It's a wordless melody. It's the songs that we find in our heart. And we sing a lot of, by the way, before there was scripted prayer, before we had the Siddur, before the printing press, it wasn't so easy to remember all the words to every prayer, so people chanted. We chanted nigunim, songs. Ya lai, la lai, lai, ya lai, la lai, lai, ya lai, la lai, lai, ya la la lai, lai, ya lai, lai, ya lai, la lai, lai, ya la la lai, lai, ya lai, lai, ya la la lai, 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 ya la la lai, lai, la la lai, ya lai, ya lai, lai, ya la la lai, 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 ya lai, la lai, lai, ya la la lai, lai. Ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la ya la 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 ya la 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 la. Let's turn the page again. So of course we know in the book of Kohelet, There's a time for everything, a time for crying, a time for laughing, and of course a time for singing, a time for song. And of course that reminded me of what was then turned into the birds who sang. And you can sing along because the words are right there, so there's no excuse for not singing. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a reason, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to weep. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to build up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to cast away stones. A time to gather stones together. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. Rebuilding voice after trauma. How do we find our song? Communal singing restores a sense of connection. So how do we build and rebuild? If you flip the page, by following the words of the Psalms and the music of Rabbi Menachem Creditor, Olam Chesed Yibaneh, we build and we rebuild after devastation. We rebuild from a place of love. And that's where we are seeing right now as hostages come home and the smiles return to the faces. We rebuild, as incomplete as it may be, because there are still hostages there and people who will never ever know their fathers, their mothers, parents who will not know their children. So it's a balance and it's a tension, but we rebuild and build with love. Olam chesed yibaneh, yada lai 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 lai. Olam chesed yibaneh, yada lai 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 lai. Olam chesed yibaneh, yada lai 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 lai. I will build. I will build this world from love. Yada lai 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 lai. And you must build this world from love. Yada da 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 da. And if we build this world from love, yada la 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 la, then God will build this world from love. Yada da 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 yada da da. Olam chesed yibaneh, yada da yada la la. Olam chesed yibaneh, yada la. So to rebuild and to build, we need strength. Can't rebuild anything without our koach, without our strength. So where do we get the strength from? If you turn the page, we get the strength from words of Shirah Tayam that we read today in the morning, the line that we sing during Hallel, the line that we sing during the Torah reading, the line that we repeat as a mantra, Ozi v'zimratya vayhi li shu'ah. Ozi v'zimratya vayhi li shu'ah. Ozi vezimratia vaili lishua. 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 But strength may not be enough to rebuild. We also need a new song. We sing a new song. And if you were here at Gospel Shabbat, you heard the phenomenal voices of our choir. I want to sing a new song, sing it out louder than before. Where does that come from? It comes from Psalm 96, Shir Ladonai, Shir Chadash, a song of faith and a song of renewal. Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash, Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz, Shiru Ladonai Baruch Shemo, Basru miyom leyom Yeshuato, Sapru Vagoyim Kevodo Bechol Ha'amim Nifleotav, Ki Gadol Adonai, O Mehulal Me'od Norahu Al Kol Elohim. Yadalai Yanai Yadalai 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 Yanai Yadalai Yadalai Now, of course, because next Friday night is Beatles Shabbat, we had to include a Beatles song in here, not just because it's Beatles Shabbat, because also their songs connect to the theme of renewal, to the promise of a brighter day. And actually, when you look at the lyrics, which is on the very last page if you turn the page, little darling, it's been a cold, lonely winter. It feels like years since you've been here, and I can only imagine that that's how the hostages and the families waiting for people to come back feel. It's been a cold winter. It's been 492 days, but it's felt like years and years and years and years since they've been here. And of course, the smiles returning to their faces. That's what we're watching as people in Israel dance and cheer and sing again. And of course, we celebrate the cycles of light and renewal, which are mirrored in this song. So, can we sing together? Little darling, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter. Little darling, it feels like years since you've been here. Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, I say, it's alright. Pa-pa-da-pa-pa-da-pa-pa-da-pa-pa-da-da-da-da. Little darling, the smiles returning to their faces. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, I say, it's alright. May we come to Beatles Shabbat, and may we all be blessed with the opportunity to see the sun, to feel the light of the sun, And you know how I know that the sun is going to shine for many, many years to come? Because Sadie and Zana are going to lead Musaf, which I think shows us the strength and the insurance on our Judaism for many years to come. So we'll rise for Musaf, which begins on page 184 with Chatzi Kaddish, and we'll get Sadie and Zana up to the bimah to lead us on this Shabbat Shirah.